Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to the November 16, 2016 Vista Planning Commission meeting. Commissioner Jackal, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Turley, will you call the roll?
Thank you. Oops. Bear with me here. Okay. Commissioner Carroll is absent. Chairman Kramer?
Here.
Commissioner Bell? Here. Commissioner Garrettson?
Here.
Commissioner Jackal? Here. Commissioner Rosler? Here. Commissioner Looney? Student Commissioner Agueda and Student Commissioner Cranford. Thank you.
Commissioners, before you are the minutes from the November 1st, 2016 meetings. Are there any changes that need to be made to the minutes? If not, can we entertain a motion, please? Commissioner Jackal.
I move approval of the minutes as presented.
Commissioner Garrettson.
I second that.
Please vote. Please let the record state that the minutes from the November 1st, 2016 minutes are presented as accepted with Commissioner Carroll being absent. Mr. Ressler, are there any agenda changes for this evening?
No agenda changes for this evening.
Thank you. All right. I did a brief review of the speaker slips, and I see that everybody's here for the same item, but I wanted to offer up if anyone was here to speak on an item that was not on this evening's agenda, that you are more than welcome to fill out a speaker slip and come forward and speak. Seeing none, we'll move forward. A couple housekeeping items. I'd like to ask you just to silence your cell phones, if at all possible, and that this evening we've got many speaker slips, so you will be timed, and on the little podium where you'll speak is a little black box, but you'll actually see it green and yellow and red, just like a stop sign. So when it turns red, you'll hear a little like a twinkle kind of, and that's your indication to cut it short, that your 3 minutes are up. So with that, we'll go ahead and move forward. Mr. Ressler, would you like to present to us, please, PC 19-076?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. The project before you tonight is the Vista Palomar Mixed Use Project. The application number is PC 19-076. The application includes a general plan amendment, a specific plan amendment, development agreement, special use permit, inclusive of a site development plan, as well as a condominium housing permit and a tentative subdivision map. The 17.16 acre site is located on the north side of West San Marcos Boulevard, between Business Park Drive and Avenida de las Rosas. The property is one legal lot. It's vacant, and it's been rough graded to accommodate 5 industrial parcels. The property is bound by the city boundaries along the east and southerly property lines. The property is surrounded by industrial uses to the northwest, residential uses to the east, residential uses to the south, as well as residential uses to the southwest. Here's a photograph from San Marcos Boulevard and Avenida de las Rosas. It's looking northwest towards the project site. Here's a photograph of the site from San Marcos Boulevard looking northeast. The proposed applications do include a general plan amendment as well as a specific plan amendment. The general plan amendment would change the land use designation for the subject property from research light industrial to mixed use. The specific plan amendment would create a mixed use overlay over the subject site. Staff does note that these both are legislative actions and that the Planning Commission has full discretion over this item. The existing general plan land use of research light industrial would allow the site to be developed with corporate offices, research and testing, light manufacturing. The proposed mixed-use land use designation would change that and allow for vertical or horizontal mixed use, which could include commercial and residential uses. The subject site is Zone Vista Business Park Specific Plan. The site is located within Planning Area B. Planning Area B allows for a variety of uses, which include professional offices, manufacturing, processing, assembly, as well as warehousing. The proposed mixed-use overlay would change that to a mixed-use designation, which would allow for multifamily residential dwellings, offices, retail, as well as hotel use. The mixed-use overlay designation would also include specific development standards for this site. Those development standards would include a list of permitted uses, a maximum building height, setbacks, off-street parking requirements, outdoor common usable outdoor space, as well as storage space and laundry facility requirements. The proposed project would be developed on 17.16 acres. The project includes a 191-unit condominium development that would be constructed on 14.82 acres, which equates to 12.88 dwelling units per acre. That site would include open space, parking facilities, as well as other site improvements. In addition to the condominium development, the site would also be developed with a 100-room hotel on approximately 2.34 acres, which would also include parking lot improvements. The site would be accessed from a common private driveway off of West San Marcos Boulevard. The recreation amenities associated with the condominium development would include swimming pool, spa, meeting and restroom building, cabanas, tot lots, seating areas, barbecues, and so forth. The hotel does require a special use permit pursuant to the proposed mixed-use overlay designation for the site. The 191 condominium units would be developed on 14.82 acres that are located on the on the westerly portion of the site. And the hotel development would be on the remaining 2.34 acres that's located on the easterly portion of the site. Access to the site would be provided by a new 36-foot wide signalized driveway located along West San Marcos Boulevard. The existing driveway along West San Marcos Boulevard would be demolished, and a new driveway would be constructed approximately 140 feet east of the existing driveway location. The site would also maintain a secondary emergency access located at the northeast corner of the site that would span from the project boundary to Linda Vista Drive. In terms of parking, the condominium development would be parked at the mixed-use zoning standard requirements, which would be 2 parking spaces per 2-bedroom units, 2.25 parking spaces per 3-bedroom unit, and 2.75 parking spaces per 4-bedroom unit. And based on that calculation, the project would be required to provide 458 parking spaces, and the site plan before you tonight identifies 464 parking spaces for the condominium development. In terms of the hotel, our commercial standard requires 1 guest space per room, which would be a total of 100 parking spaces, and the site plan indicates 100 parking spaces for the hotel site. In terms of setbacks, the project will maintain a 25-foot setback along the east property line, abutting the residentially zoned property in the city of San Marcos, an 88-foot setback for the condominiums along West San Marcos Boulevard, a 37-foot setback for the hotel along West San Marcos Boulevard, and 55 and 50 or 66-foot setbacks along the west and northerly property line abutting industrial zone properties. The regrading of the site would include a number of new retaining walls. The submitted plans indicate a new soil nail wall that would be ranged from 1 to 14 foot that would be constructed along the slope adjacent to the hotel parking lot, as well as to the rear of the condominium site. The plan also indicates a plannable keystone retaining wall ranging from 1 to 10 feet, that would be constructed along the upper slope along West San Marcos Boulevard and along the secondary emergency access and along the main drive coming into the development. Here are two cross-sections that provide illustration of how the site would be graded. The top section is a section spanning from east to west, bisecting the site, and the lower section would be a section that bisects the site from north to south, and it identifies the proposed retaining wall locations and so forth. In terms of amenities, the site would maintain a central pool area, which would include a pool, spa, meeting, restroom building, cabanas, as well as a lounge seating area. Other site amenities include a recreation area at the entrance of the condominium development, a dog park, seating gathering area, tot lots, as well as passive turf area. In regards to pedestrian access, the site will maintain a 4-foot wide sidewalk system that would link all elements of the project within the site itself. If before you, the 4-foot wide sidewalks are identified in the dashed red line work. In terms of landscaping, the site plan dedicates approximately 38% of the site for landscaping. That exceeds the 15% requirement per our landscape ordinance. The landscape plan identifies the use of native and non-native plant material that would utilize low and moderate water usage. In terms of the condominiums, the size of the condominiums would range from 1,460 square feet to 1,810 square feet. The product makeup would include 22 two-bedroom units, 101 three-bedroom units, as well as 68 four-bedroom units. Each unit would maintain a 2-car garage, as well as approximately 90 cubic feet of storage space per unit. The proposed hotel would provide a total of 100 guest rooms. Each guest room would range from 351 square feet to 416 square feet. Amenities within the hotel would include a meeting area, fitness area, pool, a food prep area, as well as a lobby area. Although the plans provide you a preliminary design of the hotel, the developer has not identified an operator for the hotel at this point. In terms of architecture, the condominiums would feature 2- and 3-story buildings with a maximum height of 38 feet. The condominiums have been designed around an Irving Gill architectural style. The exterior of those condominiums would feature stucco exteriors, a combination roof tile, parapet roof system, wood eyebrows, decorative outlookers. When completed, the condominiums would maintain 4 distinctive color schemes for the entire complex. This is an example of the 2-story condominium. It should go back. The elevation before you here is a 3-story product, and this is a 2-story product with similar colors and finishes throughout the site. The 2-story condominiums would be located on the southerly edge of the site along West San Marcos Boulevard and would transition to a 3-story product towards the rear of the site. The hotel would be a 4-story building with a maximum height of 50 feet. And in order to create integration between the condominiums and the hotel has also been designed around an Irving Gill architectural style, which would feature a stucco exterior, expansion joints, lap siding, as well as a built-up parapet roof system. In the event the developer is unable to construct a hotel component of this project, the developer has submitted an alternative plan for the 2.34 acres designated for the hotel site. The alternative plan indicates the development of 23 condominiums as well as a 4,000 square foot of retail space. Again, this is an alternative plan in the event they're unable to accommodate a hotel operator at that site. The proposed general plan land use designation would allow up to 40 dwelling units per acre. That equates to about 592 units on the subject site. The proposed development includes 191 units, would be equate to about 12.88 dwelling units per acre, which is substantially lower than the 40 dwelling units per acre for the proposed land use of the site. In terms of the mixed-use overlay development standards, the proposed project meets all the development standards in terms of building height, parking, open space, as well as landscape requirements. Mitigated negative declaration was prepared for this project. The mitigated negative declaration was circulated between September 12th to October 11th. Mitigation measures included biological resources, greenhouse gases, noise, as well as traffic. 5 comment letters were received, and they're included within your packet tonight. Staff has prepared responses to those comment letters. They're also included in your packet, and they are based on environmental analysis. This project went before the Planning Commission in an early design review meeting on April 5th, 2016. And since that time, the developer has been working with staff in order to alleviate the concerns of the Planning Commission. Some of those concerns include the density of the project. Since the April 5th Planning Commission meeting, they've reduced the density of the project from 196 to 191. In terms of building placement and site layout, they've redesigned the site layout in order to create this focal point entry into the site, as well as creating some gently meandering street systems and reducing the long uninterrupted parking areas within the original plan. There was a concern with the amount of amenities provided. The developer went back and actually increased the number of amenities within the development, which included the central pool area, a tot lot, as well as a recreation area, which includes barbecues, a palapa, benches, as well as turf area. Planning Commission was concerned with the creativity in terms of the condominium elevations. In response, the developer has provided 2 additional alternative color schemes to help try to provide more variation for the buildings on site. The disbursement of guest parking, the developer has reorganized the site in order to evenly distribute the guest parking throughout the condominium development. A lack of a signalized intersection at the project driveway. In fact, there's a new 3-way signal as well as associated off-site improvements that are proposed for West San Marcos Boulevard in order to provide a signalized driveway to the site. The Planning Commission had concerns with the height of the condominiums along the easterly edge adjacent to the existing single-family neighborhood. The project still maintains 3-story condominiums at 2 locations along that edge. And the final, unfortunately it was in the wrong sequence, but was the lack of guest parking spaces, and the project has been designed to maintain 464 spaces, which exceeds the mixed-use standard by 6 parking spaces. With that, staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt the attached resolutions, recommending the City Council approve a mitigated negative declaration, a general plan amendment, specific plan amendment, a development agreement, special use permit inclusive of a site development plan, condominium housing permit, as well as a subdivision map to allow this project to move forward. That concludes staff's report. The developer is here to provide a formal presentation to the Planning Commission. Once that presentation is complete, staff as well as the developer is here and available to answer questions.
Terrific. Commissioners, before we begin, are there any disclosures? Commissioner Garrettson?
Yes. I would like to disclose that I did meet with the applicants, Nina Hammond and Gil Miltenberger. I did meet with them and presented a bunch of questions I had in preparation for tonight.
Thank you.
And I toured the facility, all the land.
Commissioner Bell?
I also met with the applicants earlier this week and asked several questions. I wasn't here for the early design review. This is a newer appointment for me, so it was a good catch-up to get more information on the project and help me review the process.
Thank you. Commissioner Looney?
And I as well met with the applicant.
And going down the line, I did too. None of us were with the applicant at the same time. We all had different times on different days. And I don't feel that the meeting that I had with the applicant and walking the property in any way affects my ability to render a decision this evening. Commissioner Jackal or Commissioner? Nope. Okay. With that, Ninia, would you like to come up and give your presentation, please? For the record, state your name and give the address, please.
Good evening. My name is Ninia Hammond, and I live at 3318 Fosca Street in Carlsbad. Thank you very much for your time this evening and thoughtful review of the project. Over the course of the last 2.5 years, we've spent time with staff, policymakers, and the neighborhood to refine the plan, and this is what we're bringing forward tonight is this refined plan. As staff detailed in their presentation, this mixed-use project will have a positive fiscal impact to the city by providing a 100-room hotel, which produces TOT, and 191 thoughtfully planned for-sale homes, which help the city meet their housing needs. This project provides the city a smart growth opportunity through a mix of uses. The community is part of an overall job region that has 25 million square feet of job-producing business park. It lies next to already existing infrastructure and on a bus route planned for future BRT 15-minute interval bus service. In January, City Council reviewed the project, subject to the general plan amendment and land use change. A majority of the council was supportive of the land use and zoning change. This spring, the project was brought to Planning Commission for design review. Based on the comments we received from this outreach, we reduced the overall unit count from the originally submitted 200 units to 191, with a reduction of 9 homes. In the next few slides, I'd like to show how the feedback from stakeholders has positively impacted the plan. We have focused on connectivity and livability as it relates to the homes, the parking, and the open space. The gently meandering streets weave through the neighborhood. Each residence is connected through a pedestrian link off of the street to parking and recreation. With the loss of the 9 homes, we were able to increase the amount of recreation by 40%. We added 2 active recreation areas for a total of 3, many passive recreation areas, and as mentioned by staff, these active recreation areas now include a pool, spa, rec building, barbecue area, and tot lot. We added 11 guest parking spaces and made sure that they were distributed throughout the site so guests will not have to walk far for a visit. Each home is serviced by an attached 2-car garage where you take direct access to your living. We made an effort to create a grand entry which allows for monumentation and distinct and easy access for both the hotel and the residential. To do so, we more closely aligned the hotel and residential entry points. The owners and guests are greeted by this resort-style entry treatment and the gated project entry. We heard that it was important to see what the community looked like from the public view shed. The primary viewpoint for the project is from San Marcos Boulevard, so we paid special attention to the treatment along that edge. We wrapped the prominent edge of the project in 2-story buildings. We added enhanced landscape treatments along San Marcos Boulevard, and in doing so, we attempted to create a more pleasing aesthetic from that public street. As you can see, in working with staff and addressing the comments from policymakers, stakeholders, and the community, through project refinement, we believe we have achieved a quality design. We are excited about the change to this project as it has made it more dynamic and livable. Thank you for the opportunity to bring a hotel and for-sale housing to the city of Vista. Thank you for your time this evening. Our team is here and available to answer questions. We respectfully ask for your vote in favor of our project.
Thank you. Before we get into the speaker slips, commissioners, do you have any questions of staff? Commissioner Looney, followed by Commissioner Rossler.
Couple questions of staff. How long has the lot been vacant? It's been, what, 15 years?
The subdivision for the industrial lot was approved, I believe, in 2004, roughly.
Okay.
The grading was done a few years after that, so it's been probably 6-7 years that it's been graded.
Has there been any interest on the property in those past years for development in any manner?
That's probably a better question for the property owner or the applicant. We don't have any indication whether or not, at least in terms of applications, no. We did the industrial map, but we never got any further applications.
Was there any consideration, or is that emergency access into the interior of the industrial park, is that feasible to have a secondary resident access?
You're referring to the emergency access road that would
Correct.
back out the backside of the project? If it could double as some other access for a separate residential property, is that what you're asking?
Rather
Yes.
than having it just an emergency exit?
Yeah, I mean, the
For
easement
access.
for the access road, I believe, has been acquired by the applicant. I'm sure they can address what rights they have for that roadway, but if they were willing to grant rights to someone else to use it, that would be at their discretion.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Rossler, please.
Michael, you said the density was at 12.88 dwelling units per acre. Is that based on the gross acreage of the site or just the condominium site? Just for the condominium. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Jackal.
Thank you. Mr. Ressler, what is a nail wall?
I know the civil engineers here, they could probably describe it, but as I'm aware of, they actually build the wall on site, is that correct? And it's not a well, maybe it'd be best for you to describe it.
I think we all have that question.
Michael Levin with XL Engineering, 440 State Place in Escondido. A soil nail wall is a wall that's built by drilling anchors back into the ground. And so instead of having a traditional foundation that a retaining wall will have, it uses an anchor that drills down at about a 45-degree angle and then has a front plate to it that they put a steel mesh on the front and they gunite the face of that wall. And then they can actually carve it and make it look like rock and really nice texture. It really looks nice when it's done. It's used in a case like this where we have a fill that's a buttress cut, and you don't want to unload that slope. And so a soil anchor wall works and acts like a buttress. It sort of replaces the buttress fill that's there. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, then I want to second Commissioner Looney's inquiry, and maybe this does need to go to the applicants, but that was on my list. Given all the discussion of the huge traffic on San Marcos Boulevard, isn't there going to be a huge pileup of people wanting to leave in the morning, and maybe they need another way?
Please, as the audience, respect that the clapping or the showing of any kind of emotion will just make the meeting go longer. Please fill out a speaker slip and tell us what your wishes are. Appreciate that.
Well, so maybe the applicant could address that, or is this the time for that?
Direct questions, or we can wait till we hear from the audience and then the applicant can address it
Okay,
all at the
all right,
end. If
that's
that
fine.
works.
That does for now. Thank
Okay.
you.
Commissioner Bell?
Mr. Ressler, assuming the industrial zoning stands, what are the heights of the buildings that could be built at this time?
The maximum of 3 stories and 45 feet.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Commissioner Garrettson?
What about traffic if this were to stay light industrial? What would be the traffic pattern coming out of there versus the present applicants?
Well, the patterns, I don't know if I want to comment on that. I know the number of trips actually identified in the traffic analysis is actually substantially higher than the residential trip calculation. I know the traffic engineers here as well. They could thoroughly answer that question, but I know the residential project actually reduces the number of peak hour trips.
Thank you.
And then I have one question regarding the parking. So the parking number of 400 and something, and I'm going to assume that that does not include the 2-car garages that are with each unit.
The 464 includes the 2-car garages.
It does include the
Yes,
2-car
that's
garage.
inclusive of 2-car garages and guest parking.
Okay. Commissioner Jackal?
I'm sorry, triggered another question. Where will, we have the hotel that has 100 rooms and it has 100 parking places. Where do the hotel employees park?
The standard of one space per guest room is a pretty common calculation for guest for hotel accommodations. I know I've worked in a few other communities, same standard. I know that we just went through a parking analysis that did a thorough evaluation of our parking study, and in fact, that use, there was no changes identified to it. So at that point, because of hours that the guests are there and services like guest services and so forth would be during the day, I think those hours are offset to where there's adequate parking there, and which could be accommodated by the 1 parking space per guest room.
So the employees park in the guest parking spaces?
There's no deviation between the two. It's just the total calculation for the use is evaluated based on 1 parking space per room provided.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Jackal, I know from my personal experience with business travel, 3 of us will be in 1 car, and so there's 3 rooms, but only 1 car. So, Commissioner Looney, please.
One more question regarding parking, and this is being proposed as mixed use, correct? And we've got the hotel on one parcel that's, 2.5 acres, and then residential on the other. Is the parking ratio based upon a residential zone or on a mixed-use zone?
The condominium development is based on the mixed-use standards. The hotel is based on the commercial standard, which is required by the overlay, mixed-use overlay designation that's before you tonight.
Okay. Simply because of the history of parking ratios. How do the parking spaces, the number of parking spaces change if this was based upon strictly a residential zone?
So if we use the multifamily residential standards for this project based on the unit count, it'd be a total of 596 parking spaces.
So we've got, Commissioners, basically the same issue where it's an application made for mixed use, but there's clearly a residential area and clearly a commercial area. So we've got that conflict with the number of parking spaces. Thank you for that clarity.
596.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Garrettson, please.
Yeah, just one clarification question relating to the location of schools compared to this location. San Marcos High School is about a mile away.
This development would be serviced by Alvin Dunn Elementary School, which is located on La Mirada Drive. The distance from the site to that elementary school is 2.4 miles. The middle school servicing this site would be San Marcos Middle School, and that is actually on Mission Drive, and that is 4.5 miles away. And San Marcos High School, located on San Marcos Boulevard, is approximately 1 mile away from the site.
And there is public transportation along San Marcos Boulevard to the high school.
That's correct. There's bus service along San Marcos Boulevard. The bus stop locations going east is on either side of the site, north or east and west of the site. Going west is directly in front of the subject site.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rossler, please.
I'd just point out that in the mitigated neg deck on page 117 of the 412 pages, the proposed project trip generation indicates that in the AM peak there would be 164 trips, 57 going in and 107 going out. If I recall correctly, peak hours are in the morning from 6 to 8, so that's 120 minutes, so about a little over 1 trip per minute. So anyway, just pointed that out.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we'll start with the public comment. First one up is Peggy Warsham. Nope. Excuse me, Katie. Sorry. My apologies. State your name and give your address for the record, please.
Katie Warsham, and it's 2058
You can bend this if you need.
Sequoia Street.
Thank you.
In San Marcos. Having lived at the Laurels for almost 20 years and knowing the area, I was quite surprised by this discussion of having condos right across the street. We are concerned because of the heavy usage of the traffic already out on San Marcos Boulevard, and then to find out they're talking about putting in another light. I'm just very, very concerned about that. That's not the neighborhood that I wanted to see developed, because I want to stay there. So I'm looking to Vista to really analyze this. I mean, you guys have the property, but you're not having to take care of the responsibility of it being on our property to drive that road every day. I mean, why couldn't this have been turned around so it's going out another avenue, being the main road instead of our road? It feels that we're getting the shaft. I hate to say that, but so I just wanted to stand here and stand up for our neighborhood. We're very concerned about it, very concerned about the height of it, this wall, and how big it'll be in this area, in this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Brett Schanzenbach, followed by Cecilia Brennan.
Good evening, Commissioners. Brett Schanzenbach, CEO of the Vista Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here representing the board tonight. And we'd like to encourage you to go with the staff recommendation to approve this project tonight. The project, as has been discussed a little bit already, has been vacant, well, for a long, long time, but vacant and graded just for the past few years. As the rest of the business park is built out with industrial use and whatnot, this is sat vacant. So it's a challenging spot from an industrial standpoint. But as was explained by staff, it does bridge residential into commercial. And I think that their project does that very nicely by bringing in condos and a hotel. The hotel will service our business park very well. We have a lot of large employers there who bring in clients from all over the world, and this will help service them nicely. Plus, as was mentioned by the applicant, provide TOT tax for us, which is excellent. I mean, it's nice to be talking about a project that's for ownership. We've had a lot of discussion here over the past few months about apartments, and it's nice to be talking about a for ownership project here, which can help our affordability factor by putting more supply into the community and helping to alleviate some of the constrictions there. There was an article in the front page of the business section of the San Diego Union Tribune yesterday talking about how millennials are not staying in San Diego because of the affordability factor. They just can't afford to live here as compared to other major metropolitans in the country. And so it's a supply and demand equation. It's not, it's not a difficult thing to understand. We need more supply, and this is a very nice project that can help with that. So we would encourage you to, not to mention it could be workforce housing. I mean, we have a lot of industry ourselves, over 800 businesses right there in the business park. Over 22,000 people go to work every day in the business park. It'd be awesome to have housing this close to the jobs that are available within our own community. So we would encourage you to approve the project tonight and to move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Cecilia Brennan, followed by Mike Nelson, please.
Hi, good evening, Commission. My name is Cecilia Brennan, and I'm an attorney with the Perry Law Firm. We represent the Las Brisas Pacificas Homeowners Association. I have a whole bunch of comments. I don't want to take time away from everybody who's here as residents in the community. So what I'm going to do is attempt to summarize my comments very briefly. Some of them are rhetorical questions for you, for the development team, for the City of Vista, and for your residents. And also, we did assist the association in submitting their public comments. The first thing I wanted to put out there is that although you had 2.5 years apparently to meet with the developer as commissioners in individual meetings, it didn't seem like that opportunity was provided to any residents, individuals, coalitions, groups, homeowners. It seems to be sort of problematic. Also, it appears that although you had 2.5 years to consider the project, you gave 30 days, as is the minimum requirement, yes, but then the first hearing date was canceled. That ended, the November 1st hearing date ended the 30-day comment period, yet that comment period was not extended. And I actually spoke to Mr. Ressler on the phone, and I was told we could not submit any additional comments. I find that to be very problematic. I think that this document, just like most planning documents, is very dense. If you look at the list of initialisms and acronyms alone, there are 90 different terms on there. And to expect a community and residents and regular folks to read all of the planning details, the engineering terms that you have, the planning terms, everything else, it's unfair. And so at the very least, I would argue that this 30 days is insufficient. And then on top of that, there needs to be a full EIR, as we have said in our letter. I'm curious, the initial permit that was being addressed earlier by, and I'm sorry, I don't have your name here, so the grading that happened with...
Sorry, my name's John Conley. I'm the Director of Community Development.
Okay, hi, Mr. Conley. So the grading that was done in 2013, you were mentioning that the lot's been vacant and so forth. That permit should expire within 5 years. So is that why you're rushing the project? I'm not asking for an answer. I just think that's somewhat problematic that I didn't see a SWIP on this project. Maybe we can talk later about it, but the grading issues, in addition to storm runoff, erosion, wastewater, all of these different things that are directly affecting the quality of life of people in this community. And it seems like to rush that project when you had 2.5 years to have your individual meetings is really unfair. So the first request is simply more time so that people that can just attempt to understand what is about to happen or potentially what you're proposing and work with consultants and people to understand and break down all the different details. I don't see why that would be unreasonable, more time. And a full EIR, especially when all of these other issues are implicated in this project.
That was your bell, so please try to wrap it up.
Did you say please turn around now?
No.
I'm sorry.
I said please try to wrap it up.
Oh, okay, sorry. And those are my main points. I have several specific questions about the rest of it. I have comments about local source hiring and where you're going to hire to develop the project, and traffic and everything else is going to be spoken about tonight. But I think that the residents deserve a right to submit more comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Nelson, followed by Cynthia Jones, please.
Good evening. My name is Mike Nelson. I've lived at Las Brisas Pacificas for 16 years. I live on Avenida Michelle, which is the street that parallels the eastern edge of this project, as a matter of fact.
at the last meeting where this was discussed, I told you that it was 25 feet up and 50 feet behind my bedroom window is where that road is going to be. And it's my firm belief that people will be parking along that emergency access road. And that means that every morning people are going to be going up there and slamming their doors when they get in and revving their engines and all of that and disturbing the peace and tranquility, which is why we bought our homes there. But the main reason I wanted to speak was because of their storm drain. The last time we had rain, back in the good old days, I walked down to, you can actually see it right there. There's a little paved road just north of San Marcos Boulevard that goes towards the southeast corner. Well, at the bottom of that is a creek that originates in our property. It's spring-fed, and it is pristine down there. And I watched I don't know what it was, but it would look like spray whipped cream coming down the storm drain from the corner of the project there, and they weren't doing any work there. There was no machinery there. It was just whatever is in their storm drain system, and it was white, opaque. You couldn't see through it. When it got to the bottom, it turned right. It didn't even mix with the water from our creek because it has some different density to it. And they disappeared under San Marcos Boulevard parallel, instead of two like bodies mixing each together. And I also walk all over North County for my health, and our creek goes all the way down to Batiquitos Lagoon. And I have noticed a marked change in the vitality of the riparian habitat and in the quantity and different species of the fauna that normally lived in that habitat. And I call your attention to the additional conditions construction best management practice on the mitigated EPA report. It says all kinds of things about mitigating with different plants and trees and bushes and shrubs and all of that kind of junk, but it does not address water containing mud, silt, or other pollutions that go into the public waterways of the United States and California and my home. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia Jones, followed by Tim Hemmig, please.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Jones, and I live in the Laurels, which is directly across the street from this proposal. I'm very concerned about this project for several reasons. One is I'm very concerned about the traffic. I know the traffic right now during rush hour is horrible, and if I ever need medical attention at like rush hour, I'm probably going to die because there's no way getting out, and we have one way in, one way out, and it's usually backed up all the way to the 78. So there's a real, health hazard, if not just a traffic problem. I'm also super concerned about the noise due to the density of the project. And they've talked about putting these retaining walls. It's very noisy just because of all the traffic going up and down there. And I'm worried if there's walls that the noise will bounce on the walls and come across the street to my community. And I already don't need an alarm in the morning. I wake up basically due to the noise that's on that road already. I also was wondering if they could provide, besides just the entrance on San Marcos Boulevard, an alternate one from the back, because that would alleviate a lot of the traffic, I think, if people could go both ways. Also, people that live there will not be able to get in and out. It'll take them forever because it already takes a long time now. I'm also concerned about the lack of parking for the residential, because moving that driveway to basically real close to our driveway, I'm worried about overflow parking coming into our neighborhood and blocking the driveways in and out to our neighborhood. And I'm also concerned about potential crime. Right now, if it's light industrial, it'll be nice and quiet and there shouldn't be people going in and out at night. But if it's open 24-hour for people to come in and out, I'm kind of a little worried about that. So I'm just asking that you think some more about some of these issues that are really important to us that actually live in that community. The report I looked at, it showed a lot about being in the project and looking out and living in there, but it didn't talk much about the community around it. And I know on the north side, that community is pretty much senior community. You know, it's nice and quiet. And then on the south side, those communities are very quiet residential areas. So I think that's why we're really concerned about this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Hemmick, followed by Andy Taylor, I think is what it is.
All right. Good evening. My name is Tim Hemming, and I live at 2084 Aspen Court in the Laurels. And I also wrote you a letter that I know was outside the public comment period and delivered it yesterday, but there's a good reason for that, is that I didn't even know about this project till about a week ago, which is just truly unbelievable to me, living so close to the project. So I hope you read the letter, because at this 3-minute period I can talk to you about my concerns. Won't do it justice. So. But it's also, despite the fact that we tried, my family tried, my wife and I tried to get on the notification list with the City of Vista. My wife personally went to the planning department, talked to Patsy Chow, and asked to be on the list, yet we were told nothing about the notification of the MND and about the project. So it's just unbelievable that we didn't know about this project. And yeah, 500 feet. There is a standard, obviously, for minimum notification, but, light and sound does not stop at 500 feet. And so when you're talking about a project of this magnitude, which has residential property all around it, but the weird situation is all that residential property is in the city of San Marcos, not in the city of Vista, creates an interesting situation here for us. And we should not be thinking about city boundaries. Let's talk about good planning for all of us, because we all, I think, will live in this community and will be driving by this at some point in our lifetimes. So it just blows me away that there wasn't good notification. But regardless of that, I did want to address the concerns with the impacts that this project will create for these communities around it. Namely traffic, noise. We talked about parking, the visual impacts. And I think if you really think about where all those are coming from, it's just the extreme density of this project. Yeah, maybe it meets the mixed-use standards, but that really isn't a very good spot for mixed use. It's pretty clear when I'm hearing the comments coming from you commissioners. I think you're all concerned with the same things. It's just, and I think the MND just did not do a good job of addressing these comments, did not do a good job of evaluating the impacts to the Laurels and to the residents around the project. So, I support a full EIR. I think that's a great comment. And I support an extension of comment period. And really what I asked you to do because of these impacts, and like I said, I ran out of time to get into the details, but I think there's deficiencies in the impact analysis that you should not approve this project today. You should allow for additional time for the staff and for the applicant to actually go back and address these concerns and rethink about the project. Density reduction from 196 to 191 is not a density reduction, in my opinion. So I really ask you not to approve this project tonight, allow for additional time and analysis. And now that I know about it, I'm very willing and interested in being part of the process and working with everybody to try and come up with a better solution. So I ask you not to approve. And I also ask you if you did read my letter. I think it's important that you do. So I have a question for you. Did you read my letter?
This is comments.
Thank you.
Again, Andy Taylor, I think it's who lives on Hawthorne. Ah, good. Followed by Kathy. Yes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andy Taylor. I live at 966 Hawthorne Court, right across the street from the project. First of all, I've lived there for 24 years. I've seen this road go from 2 lanes to 6 lanes now, and traffic is very bad. I would have liked to have been notified that these meetings were happening. If anybody is impacted by what this project is, it is me and everybody that lives in the Laurels and next to it. You're proposing a hotel. A hotel brings in transient people that change every day, and they're going to be right next to little kids playing in the condos next door. I don't think that is a very prudent planning option. The density is probably about twice as much as what it really should be. And this project it just needs to be a lot less people here. We've got over 500 people parking spaces you're trying to propose, and that's just really too much. And finally, there's a portable building on the corner that's probably lit up at night. These past few days, it hasn't been lit up, but it's just like a giant billboard. It's signed that just puts light into everybody's backyard. So, and I just here for all the people that want you to do a full EIR on this report, and I think if you don't, this will end up in court. So, thank you.
Thank you. Kathy? Followed by husband Kent.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Bercioli. I live at 2010 West San Marcos Boulevard in San Marcos. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments on this proposed project. My husband and I live extremely close to this project. We live in Las Brisas Pacificas. We are a community of people, of senior citizens who enjoy our quiet, comfortable way of living. We have lived here for almost 10 years, and we plan to stay here. Thus, this project will have a major impact on our daily lives. At this time, we have light industrial buildings near us, and this actually does let us to continue to live the lifestyle that we now enjoy. This will not be the case with a change in zoning. 35 2- and 3-story condominium buildings and a 4-story hotel will have a much greater impact from the hill above us. I am opposed to this project as it has been proposed. Concerning the aesthetics component of the study, we believe it is insufficient. For example, in the discussion of substantial source of light and glare, the study states no impact. We believe that light and glare should be more thoroughly discussed. The narrative does not discuss why the physical components of the project itself, the solar panels, windows, signage, etc., will not cause additional light or glare. Instead, it explains that there will be additional street and walkway lighting. Additional street and walkway lighting does not address the issue of light and glare. The proposed project density of large condominium buildings and a hotel, I cannot imagine how this would not have an effect on aesthetics. How could this not have an effect on light and glare? What I would like to imagine is a zoning to remain light industrial and the beauty of our community and our lifestyle to remain as it is now. In summary, for aesthetics and several other reasons, we oppose this project. Also, the public needs more time to review this and the multitude of other issues that are raised by this project. Please respond to this request, as well as whether the city will require a full EIR for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Kent, followed by Sue DeRosa, please.
I'm the worst half of the two. I'm her husband. I'm also the president of the HOA of Las Brisas Pacificus. Thank you for hearing me. We are very concerned about the project. We think more time is required as well, more of a study. This community has been in place for 28 years. The average age is over 70. We've worked very hard to make the community a success that it is now. We see this as an infringement on that. There's a lot of people that are going to get up here and talk about separate topics that are important to us, so I don't want to cut into their parade. But one thing on the parking is very important. I've heard that from all of you. Do you realize that of the 392 parking spaces, that's 2-car garages? Now, you know as well as I do, when you move into a new condominium or new house, you don't park your car in the garage. Not initially, you don't. You know, it's full of boxes and full of furniture. Eventually, maybe you get one car in there. So you got to have a place to put the other cars. They only have, other than the hotel, 100 park units, they have 76 other spaces. You can imagine how quick 76 are going to be used up. That emergency exit road that they have going up there, unfortunately, that's going to become the parking lot. That is going to become the parking lot. It's going to become the playground. It's going to become the bicycle lane. It's going to become the skateboards, and that's going to bother our community a lot. Please reconsider this thing and continue to make it nice for our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sue DeRosa, followed by Rex Anthony, please.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Sue DeRosa. I am a resident of Las Brisas Pacifica, have been there about 4 years. And this community was very important to us when we picked to live there. And we were looking for a peaceful, nice retirement community. And we found that in this little haven on the canyon. This project is going to be a major impact on all of us there, and so many of us feel that basically this is going to be our last home. So we took a lot of time in selecting and finding a place for our retirement years. I also oppose this project as it has been proposed, and we request that you extend the public review period and so that we can examine multiple issues and request a full EIR project. Regarding the noise issues that are raised by this project, of course, we're very concerned about this. We believe that the increased noise, not only by the construction, but also the future use of this project, would create a huge nuisance to the current and future residents. When children are introduced into this project by the residents, obviously bicycles and skateboards will undoubtedly be going up and down that private emergency road. You know how kids are about finding vacant lots and secret little places for them to have fun and enjoy things. And so this will undoubtedly cause us a lot of noise in the community, and that is just behind our homes. Also, a 24-hour hotel that operates 24 hours a day, banquet rooms, parties, weddings, New Year's Eve parties, whatever, you're talking about 24 hours worth of noise in a place that's used to being so peaceful and so serene. The only acceptable thing and prudent thing to do is to keep this as an industrial site, as your general plan states. And we would appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Rex Anthony, followed by Bob Sestek.
My name is Rex Anthony. I live at 2010 West San Marcos Boulevard in Las Brisas.
My segment will address the impact on education, housing, and population. Kathy mentioned it was a senior community. I didn't know that. But 60 plus years ago, my education began with my parents reaching and speaking to me to say, always say, please and thank you. I listened to that. So first, please hear what I'm going to say. I only have about 3 minutes, but that's our request in total here. Second, thank you in advance, as this is really important. So let's just jump into it here. The classroom study breakdown across 3 segments on this matter dictates that students benefit for education from a lower concentrated classroom, which, 1, improved academic performance. I'll get into that in a little bit detail later. 2, better student engagement in class happens. 3, greater curriculum retention as well. Education at large benefits by elevated teacher retention. 2, better teacher-to-student learning ratios. And 3, more educator willingness to self-advance. Now, there are civic benefits to this, too. 1, less traffic concentration. We've talked about that. We all have a serious concern about that on many levels I won't go into. I think they're a part of the record. 2, no civic adaptation to the existing condition that lies there currently. So we know what that is. 3, lower auto emissions and overall environmental impact. That's all good. On all levels, that's good for our kids, for the housing, for the impacted housing. But let's quickly top level the studies. A 2004 Harvard study sampling 6,000 plus students in one segment saw fewer students per classroom shows superior levels of overall performance. That's a good thing. Conversely, higher classroom numbers resulted in lower student metrics. It's going the other way. On another point, in a 2013 MIT concluded that vehicle emissions caused 58,000 premature deaths in the U.S., with the active agent being CO2, carbon monoxide. To piggyback, the National Academies Press found that when CO2 is inhaled, its chemical structure interrupts the body's ability to process oxygen, thus compromising breathing. That's for adults. We're talking about kids here, so they're even more vulnerable to these emissions from the added cars and volume. These studies in total conclude that the negative human impact on school children, housing, and environment would be real. So why does a community like Las Brisas even really care about children? Kathy said I was an old guy. 1, because we have children, and we have grandchildren. So now we have that in our hearts and minds, and we understand their value. 2, because we give back and serve the needs of others through commitment and participation like this. We like Vista. We like San Marcos. We want this whole community as a whole to be stronger, better for everyone. 3, because we take pride in maintaining our home values that we have invested our hard-earned dollars into.
Mr. Anthony, you've had your 3 minutes.
Can I end? Oh, sorry. Thank you. I got one sentence.
Wrap it up.
Just to
yes.
conclude, it's a wrap.
Thank
so
you.
3 minutes isn't a lot of time. Thank you for that. To tell the whole story. All of our families live in a great location. Yes, we've seen the importance of change in our lifetimes, but let's keep our children's education, home values, and well-being intact. I would, in conclusion, like to submit, if I may, to the clerk, transcripts of what I had spoken of here,
Absolutely.
as well as the Harvard and the MIT studies and a few other ancillary reports.
Sure. Thank you very much. Bob Sestek, followed by Michael Stoya.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Bob Sustachek. I'm with the Las Brisas Pacifica community. with regards to Vista Palomar, I was doing some math on the parking, and amendments notwithstanding to the parking, I'm looking at approximately 500 units, and that's inadequate for this site. The potential population's way too high for it. It looks to me like with the alternative plan of 1 and 3 that we have 191 units now. It's changed, so I'm doing a little fast math here. With 2 garage spaces and 2 cars, we have a tendency, you know the old joke about putting $500 worth of stuff in your garage and leaving a $35,000 car outside. We have a tendency to do that, and that would leave probably a little less than 100 spaces, and they'd be used up very, very shortly if there were like 20% of the people that actually did use their garages for storage. That is something that we do a lot of. Alternative 2 is not much different. This has been mentioned before, so I'm going to run through it as much as possible, as quickly as possible. So either way, the alternatives, either one of the alternatives, there's not going to be enough parking for that. What is really bad is the fact that the off-site parking is not available. There is none. It's not existent. And usually other residential developments have they do have this off-site parking that would alleviate that problem. But this doesn't. And I know that you had talked to the developer about this, but only now did we get to know about that. I was also looking at the map up there, and my first thought was to squeeze all of that proposal into that space is undoubtedly going to create some problems to our social environment. I mean, if you look at all the residential areas around it, they're much bigger, and they have less. And this is going to squeeze too much into it. I do want to mention also that the amenities, that even with the additional amenities, this isn't enough. And the reason why is because it's one small pool, and there's not enough open space to throw or kick a ball. And I've been an educator for 25 years, just retired last year. Worked with middle school children, and I know one thing about children, and I know that every parent here will back me up on this. Children need 3 to 4 times more space than adults, and this project's not going to give them that space. One last thing. There's a small park called Simmons Park. It's the only park around, and it's too far to walk. It's small, so just a couple dozen people, and that's pretty much all it. And the solution to the amenities and to the recreation issues just are unresolved. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Stoward, followed by Sandra. Thank you.
Kamuji, yes. Good evening. Michael Stoya. I live at Las Brisas Pacificas, and I'm going to talk about something that's been, I think, talked about quite a bit tonight, and that's traffic. And while the renderings and the architectural drawings show this pretty property, I noticed that the developer nor the sales agent mentioned anything about traffic. And that's probably the biggest concern. I know I've lived in San Marcos now for over 15 years, moved to Las Brisas Pacificas about 5 years ago. And one of the things that I've noticed most is the traffic issue. It's the number one concern and issue. We completely disagree with every and any notion that traffic is not a problem. And I want to be clear that this project would make things worse for the entire surrounding communities. While the current study addresses many of the intersections on West San Marcos Boulevard, it fails miserably to address the most important intersection in our community, which is Avenida de la Rosa and also Acacia, which is the entrance to the Laurels. This entrance to our community and the northern continuation of Acacia Drive for the community across the street, the Laurels, the emission clearly demonstrates the lack of the EIR's prepares firsthand knowledge of the area and the effects that the added traffic will have on the community as well as the surrounding communities. It is purely Vista's desire, not rationale, that a traffic light is to be installed on West San Marcos Boulevard. This is contrary to the stated position of the City of San Marcos and contrary to the opinion of the EIR. Traffic will be significantly worsened and create more accidents, more stress on our streets, increased delays, and massive congestion at each intersection. There is no analysis of the need for the acceleration lane or discussion of trip distribution. All we hear about is what revenue and added value this will bring to the City of Vista. There appears to be no concern on the impact of the environment of the proposed project on traffic and circulation in the City of San Marcos, with this increase as of many as 600 new vehicles to our already crowded highway. It is a very busy highway and is already excessively dense and dangerous. Speeds range from 55 miles an hour to 45 miles an hour, and those speeds that are posted, not obeyed. Let me paint you a visual. Since I've been living at Las Brisas, Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m., and around 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., traffic volumes are their highest, an average somewhere around 11.5 miles an hour, beginning at Business Park, which is just west of the entrance of your proposed project. From Business Park to Highway 78 entrance, it can take up to 25 to 35 minutes to complete due to the increased traffic of the current vehicle load today. When you increase the number of vehicle trips, the volume to capacity ratio on the roads or congestion at each intersection, you have a compounding effect. Adding another potential 600 plus vehicles to that substantially increases in safety risks, inadequate emergency access, and increase in noise volumes. This, at the end of the day, really affects the quality of life we've all invested in. I want to close this with one other point. Last night on Fox News, it just came down that the City of Poway declined 3-2 vote to approve a project for veterans, Humanity for Veterans, based on the impact of traffic congestion the new housing project would cause in their community to make up an already frustrating morning and evening traffic congestion situation worse. Does this sound familiar? We're asking you to ask yourself if we need the same problem with this high-density condo, townhome, hotel complex squeezed into a too small piece of property. I really thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Sandra, followed by William Capella, please.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Camucci. I live in Las Brisas Pacificas, and I'm also a member of the Board of Directors. I am opposed to this project as it has been proposed. The Las Brisas community is opposed to the rezoning of the area or granting variances related to the land use and planning issues. All the points in this mitigated study show less than significant or no impact on the surrounding areas with limited explanations. The project does not require, the project does require zoning changes and therefore these impacts are disingenuous. There are no plans to offset hotspots or the impact on green space. The project would require amendments to the general plan, the specific plan, special uses permits, changing the existing zoning from light industry business to mixed-use residential. The actual buildable plot of land is not 17 acres as referenced by the developer, but approximately 13 due to the slopes that are going up. With 191 2, 3, and 4-bedroom condominiums and a 100-room hotel proposed for this area, the impact would be significant on the density of the population of the existing area. We oppose the zoning changes as they would have a negative impact on our local communities and our neighborhoods. There are no multifamily residential housing units anywhere near this proposed development. The visual design of the development also would not fit into the current design of the existing neighborhood. The rezoning variances have a major short and long-term impact on the quality of life for the current residents. We are amenable to the current light industry business designation and/or single-family residence on larger lot designations. In summation, we are opposed to the project and would like more time to review the issues raised by the projects. Please respond to this request, as well to require a full environmental impact to be completed on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. William Capella, followed by Jackie Baker, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is William Capella. I'm a resident of the very proud community of Las Brisas Pacificus. I read the EIR. I honestly did. I wish to comment on the mandatory finding of significance found on page 3-90 of the mitigated EIR. We are frankly offended by the conclusions as stated. I quote in part, "The project would not consist of any uses or activities that would negatively affect any persons in the vicinity and therefore would not result in any environmental effects that would cause substantial adverse effects on human beings directly or indirectly," end quote. Folks, our quality of life and well-being would indeed be negatively affected. The sum of our preceding and yet to come comments tonight clearly outline the effects we fear. Traffic, density, lack of parking, lack of adequate recreational areas, problems upon problems. The current EIR may satisfy theoretical and legal measures of mitigation, but it fails poorly to deal with reality. For example, any statement that there would be more traffic with light industrial is just impossible, just not credible, plain incredible. And if all of those issues are not enough, there's always the very real possibility that the planned development of condominiums could degrade to an apartment complex. This recently occurred with another integral project in San Marcos called Palomar Station. Originally planned and permitted as a mixed-use condominium project, Palomar Station is now an apartment facility with no commercial presence. The negative effects of an apartment complex of renters, in lieu of individually owned condominiums, would result in a decrease in pride of ownership and most likely a decline in our property values. Please understand that we are not speaking against the current zoning designation research life light industrial. We have no issue with a light business moving onto the ridge, but we are diametrically opposed to the proposed rezoning to a mixed-use, multifamily development and hotel. We respectfully request that a full EIS be prepared and a longer review and comment period be allocated. You already have on file our attorney's formal position on that matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jackie Baker, followed by Carrie Bruner, please.
Good evening. My name's Jackie Baker, and I'm a real estate broker, and I live in Las Brisas Pacificus. I also sell our home, so I have some knowledge about why our residents live there and the things they like about our community. One of the items our residents enjoy is the fresh air that comes up the canyon from the ocean. Many of us can see that ocean. This project has the potential of affecting the air quality in our neighborhood by adding pollution from additional traffic. The study states less than significant impact, but includes insufficient analysis of impacted traffic on air quality. The density of the proposed project homes and hotel would have impacts on pollution and creation of hotspots without any discussion of mitigating them with increased green space. That pollution comes right into Las Brisas neighborhood via the ocean breezes. It would have significant impact on our senior citizens. The increased noise, pollution, and traffic dangers will also impact our home prices negatively. We don't know how they will be impacted, which is why a full EIR should be required. These neighborhoods were here first, and the impact of this development on them is important to consider. Also, there is the possibility that a planned development of condominiums would degrade into an apartment complex. This happened at Palomar Station, as was just spoken about. Such a significant change could impact the validity of this EIR. From the drawings, I don't see adequate parking for all the homes and hotel customers. Palomar Station is a good example of what happens when there is not adequate parking. The streets in the nearby industrial park are full of parked cars at night to make up for the lack of apartment parking. There is no industrial complex or on nearby streets for additional parking at Vista Palomar development. The closest is the neighborhood streets of the three closest neighborhoods, Las Brisas Pacificas, The Laurels, and Rancho Dorado. Parking in these neighborhoods and walking back to Vista Palomar creates a pedestrian hazard as well as eyesores in these neighborhoods. It impacts their homes, parks, safety, and home prices. The San Marcos School District will also be impacted by the density of this development. Has that been addressed? Will high school students attend San Marcos High School and then walk along San Marcos Boulevard to and from school? This could be a very dangerous situation. Already, students crossing San Marcos Boulevard near the high school greatly impacts traffic during the school hours. Again, all this needs to be fully addressed with a full EIR. I urge the Vista Planning Commission to demand the full EIR, and we oppose this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Bruner, followed by Tim Hoops.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Bruner. I live at 981 Hawthorne Court in San Marcos in the Laurels community, directly across from this project. I'm highly supportive of development, urban infill, smart growth, good design, but I think this project came up short for many reasons. As an adjacent resident in San Marcos and a concerned citizen of North County, and an actively practicing licensed landscape architect in the state of California, I strongly oppose the Vista Palomar mixed-use project at 2100 San Marcos Boulevard in Vista. I have extensive background in entitlement, development, redevelopment, and planning, and feel this project needs further review by the City of Vista, the City of San Marcos, and the City of Carlsbad to fully address the concerns being discussed tonight. As a San Marcos resident of the Laurels community, I feel the developer, Integral Communities, should have notified their Laurels neighborhood. We are owners of the open space, park, and entry monuments at Acacia and San Marcos Boulevard, which puts us within 325 feet of the property line. Having just found out about this project 2 weeks ago, we have quickly organized community meetings at my house, contacted city officials in San Marcos and Vista, and expressed our concerns. This project is far too dense, creating incompatible land use with its neighbors and also within the land use of the site. Hotels and residential should not share a property. There's many issues with this, and I think it's a very incompatible land use. I don't think the zoning should be changed to accommodate this proposal of hotel and condo mix. The general plan states the vacant lots are very limited and should be planned wisely within the city of Vista. This was in your 2030 general plan. I've read through every document that pertains to this project. The proposed project is not a product of smart growth, which is a main objective of the Vista General Plan of 2030. I think the development of the site should be held to the previously set objectives of the Business Park Specific Plan and the General Plan of 2030. This would hold the project to having 2 access points to public streets, not just an emergency egress. The height of all structures should be limited to the max of 3 stories per the specific plan. If 200 feet from property lines should be held to 2 stories. Noise level should be kept at 1 hour sound level of 45 decibels, especially near residential. Signage size shouldn't exceed requirements, and buildings should be compatible with surrounding residential properties. The hotel architecture and proposed condo architecture are not compatible with each other or with the residential areas. Special uses should have landscape areas available on site for conversion to future parking as stated in the specific plan. Outdoor space is not sufficient. Bioretention basins are designed within each piece of green open space that was shown on that plan. As a landscape architect in the state of California, I know exactly what a plant palette is for a bioretention basin, and that is not an acceptable outdoor usage space for residents or children. I oppose this project.
Thank you. Tim Hoops, followed by Ann and Edward Ligar, please.
Great job, Carrie. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Tim Hoops. I live on 1974 Acorn Road in the Laurels and have some issues I want to address tonight. There are 4 specific issues, so I want to get to these. The first and foremost is the failure to properly and legally notify the local residents in both Rancho Dorado and also in the Laurels. The driveway has been moved down 140 feet. It's a significant impact. We are about 325 feet from the project. Legally from Vista, you're not allowed to do that unless you have notified the property owners. And we were not notified until 2 weeks ago. So we have not had time to properly review this and to address some of our issues and to get some remediation to the issues. So first of all, proper notification. Las Brisas is 250 feet approximately away. We are 325, 345 feet away. Rancho Dorado is about 325 feet away. There are 3 cities that are impacted by this. My big concern is you're developing a project, which is great for you. You're driving tax revenue for you, but the burden is left on San Marcos and Carlsbad. Not for fire, and by the way, we need to address that because your fire engines are going to have a problem getting into that community because the traffic is so crappy. Sorry for the bad language. That's really the case. It's a bad situation. The second issue I wanted to address was the San Marcos education system, which has already notified you and has expressed concern because they are overloaded in their schools and they don't have room for students. So if you want this project to proceed, you need to bear part of the burden for the San Marcos School District to build more schools. We have a problem in San Marcos and it needs to be addressed. We don't have enough classroom space for students. Third is traffic. I will note that thoroughfare from Business Park all the way to San Marcos Boulevard is the highest ticketed spot in San Marcos. It is significant because traffic moves at a very fast pace, and when it's not, and during peak hours, it doesn't move very much at all because it is backed up all the way. We've talked about that extensively tonight. So saying that there is no impact from this project, no significant impact, is flat out ridiculous. That just simply can't be the case. And then fourth, my issue is the noise. We have a regulation in Vista. This should also apply to your neighboring communities. That is, I think, 45 to 50 decibels during the day. During the evening, and 60 decibels during the day. I have a concern with hotel and the residential. If you're going to eliminate their event space, that's fine. But they're not allowed to run event space and violate that decibel marking. And the other thing is the traffic with the retaining wall is going to cause another significant issue with the noise. So I apologize for going over time. I would like to express that I am opposed to this. I think there is a way to get through this. The second entrance is definitely a great option because it relieves a lot of traffic up that way. There are things we can do to remediate our concerns. But if we are properly notified and we have a chance to go through that, we would like to be able to work with you to get through this. Thank you.
Sir. Either Ann or Edward Ligar, one of you.
Thank you. Ann Ligas.
Ligas.
Yeah. 1986 Hazelnut Court, San Marcos in the Laurels. First, I oppose the project. Second, I would love to see you keep the zoning as is. However, if you do proceed with this plan, we feel it will affect the property values of our home. We are concerned that these units may not sell, or they may sell to a developer who buys 20 or 30 at a time and then rents them out, which brings in possibly an element of people who will create criminal activities in our subdivisions. Also, the parking spaces, there are too many townhomes for the number of parking spaces. For example, in a 3 and 4 bedroom townhome where you're going to have children and eventually teenagers and eventually more cars, where are they going to park? We're concerned that they're going to come over not only to use our streets for their skateboarding and various things, but also parking in our subdivision. And of course, we've already addressed the increased traffic on San Marcos Boulevard. I have a possible solution. I don't know if you're interested, but I'll just throw it out there. And that is to make this, rather than a multifamily or whatever you're calling it, townhomes, make it an over 55 community. There's already precedents for that in that there's Palomar Estates West and Las Brisas, who are retirement communities. And if you did that, and where it could be a win-win with all of us the city, and the developer, a lot of the issues would be reduced. The noise issue, the parking issue, they wouldn't be going in and out at peak traffic times. So those are my suggestions. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. Terry Collins, followed by Justin Luzik.
Hi, Planning Commissioners and City staff. 1504 Green Oak Road. I'm here tonight because I am part of a group, Vistans for a Livable Community, and also Vista Community Advocate. We have Facebook pages where we talk with citizens of Vista, and we will be reaching out to all of the citizens of San Marcos to share information. One thing that we've attended many meetings with all of you and many city council meetings and had one-on-ones with city council staff. And one thing that's very apparent is that there's an issue with our general plan being changed all the time. There's an issue with our mixed-use zoning being pure residential or pure commercial and not true mixed use. And there's just an issue with transparency and process here in the city, and it's something that we will be bringing up to you over and over and over again, and we will be attending every meeting coming up till election year 2018. So one thing that you have heard tonight, this is Pete and repeat. When I was a little kid, I was given a book, and inside there was a rhyme. Pete and repeat were sitting on a fence. Pete fell off. Who was left? Repeat. That's what this is tonight. This is the meeting on Breeze Hill. This is the meeting on Creekside. This is the meeting on Main Street. This is all the meetings that we have had lately. Everyone here is voicing all the same concerns. So I wanted to talk about what Brett said tonight from the Chamber of Commerce, because he's always pro-business. And he's talked about how over 800 businesses are in our business park area, with over 22,000 people here working there. One of the things that we've been saying at all these meetings is that we're not bringing in jobs to Vista. We need more jobs. You're building all these apartments, but we need more jobs so people can work here in Vista in this live, work, play that we've been talking about. In this week's San Diego Business Journal, there is an article. Let me show the cover inside. It says, "Industrial demand moves north. Developers make plans to meet it." And on the next page, there's a little call-out box right here. I posted that on my Facebook page. And it says that Vista has a 3% vacancy rate. Carlsbad has 7.1 in their industrial park. Escondido, 3.6. Oceanside, 4.1. Vista, 3%, the lowest of any North County city. And yet we're going to rezone our industrial space and give away places for jobs to add more homes to our already crowded home area. We have done our fair share of building homes. I'm sorry, I'm pulling out all stops tonight. You guys must be shaking your heads from last night. What happened in the city completely overturned your decision for an EIR in Breeze Hill. You must be shaking your heads. What are your roles here? What are you doing? Gosh, all the hours you've spent, all the hours our team has spent bringing up all the Lucy codes. One thing that the people here don't realize, they mention things from their heart, and they mention codes, but they didn't mention the code numbers, and they didn't hand them into you. So that's something you guys need to do before you come next time, because I'm figuring out that maybe the city doesn't care about what's in our heart and doesn't care about our community and doesn't care about our way of life and the traffic. It took me an hour and a half to get here tonight. I work in Serrano Mesa, and most of that time was spent just maneuvering through some of the back roads because the freeways were packed due to accidents. So this is how important these meetings are to us. We work full time. We're not getting paid for this. It's our heart and souls here, and we hope that you listen and bring this up to the city, that there are many issues we need to resolve, and one of them is transparency. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin Lusick, followed by Stephen Vitelli.
Tough night for you guys, huh? Justin Lusick, 2055 Sequoia Street, San Marcos. So as part of this process, I was looking through the Vista Business Park specific plan, and I wanted to kind of bring your attention to some of your plan objectives that were done a while ago. Number one was to provide the City of Vista with a well-planned and designated employment center, a combination of industrial, research, and commercial. Number 6 was to provide the city with a mix of industrial, business park, commercial land uses to balance quality development with economic growth. And I think finally, number 5 was most important to me was ensure compatibility of all uses within the plan area and surrounding properties through design and development guidelines. And I think one of the reasons you're seeing so much, talk tonight is because you're really, unfortunately, not bringing new residents into the Vista community. You're bringing them into the San Marcos community. And that's something, as a San Marcos resident, that we should be excited about. Do you have any idea where the nearest residential location in Vista to that location is? It's about 2 miles away, down Palomar Airport Road and up Melrose. So you're farther than 2 miles away from another Vista resident. So it's kind of odd to put it there, and to do such in a way that's very incompatible with everything that's around it. It's not a compatible land use. So if you did really want to bring residential in there, bring it like it is. Single-family homes, 55-plus community. That's a right fit. I think there's been good points that the land should stay as industrial, and if you don't decide that's the right path, I think residential or 55-plus is a great idea. Mixed use really allows games to be played, right? The parking that there doesn't support what would be typical residential parking. So it's that incompatibility. Why has that not moved as light industrial? I can only speculate. One, access is terrible. It's a right turn only heading westbound on San Marcos Boulevard. So without putting another traffic light and making the rest of the traffic worse, it's not really suitable for residential in the first place or even a great industrial place. Number 2 would be, developer price, things like that, right, which we can't control. Or number 3, maybe they're waiting on something better. I don't know, like a mixed-use plan. So, for all these reasons, I oppose the project just because I don't think it was thoughtfully planned, and I don't think it really is in any harmony with what you've done in the rest of your specific plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Vitulli?
Good evening, Stephen Vitulli, 972 Hawthorne Court. I live in the Laurels, that is a southeast community. For 20 years, I've built cell sites in people's backyards, so I'm used to the NIMBY mentality, and tonight I get to be the NIMBY. So, first off, one of the things that I really have a hard time with is the fact that we were not appropriately informed. So we're scrambling here to catch up with the rest of you. We lie obviously outside some arbitrary mark of 500 feet, yet we are the first tier community to this development. We exit out right into it, right? There's nowhere we're unaffected. My backyard looks directly into that lot. Most of the people here do. So I have an issue with that, and I would ask, just based on that you at least postpone or deny for tonight the vote and give us some time. The second point is I really have concerns about the parking. I think that's a reasonable request. Today, a lot of people are driving the larger vehicles. If you look at the plan looks like the kind of spacing that you would normally allocate for a car. So we're going to have a lot of overflow of oversized vehicles in our area, and I don't care to have that, obviously. They'll more than likely end up parking here on Acacia, which is the inlet into the Laurels. And, nobody wants that kind of foot traffic. Plus, it creates pedestrian hazards. I think you can all agree that on a street that has 55 mile an hour, speed limits. In fact, our intersection, I heard, was the second most ticket-generating intersection because their speed traps are constantly. But to summarize in short, at least give us a delay on that. I am not opposed to the commercial zoning of that property. I bought my home fully aware that there was going to be a commercial property there. The light impact from that is minimal. We have surrounding facilities that show us pretty much what it's going to be, and I have no problem with that. But this thing kind of sticks out like a sore thumb in the middle of three communities, and we are communities. I know some of the Las Brisas people here tonight. My son plays with their dogs when they come to the park. I know half of the people here from Laurels, and to have all that. So you've heard my statement on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Emmerich Lucan Fayette. Did I do okay?
Usually silence is good enough for me to come up. So.
I'm sorry, sir?
Usually silence is my sign to come up. So. First of all, thanks a lot for your service to the community. I know you're taking a beating tonight, but I'm sure you guys approved the target that's behind there and everyone loves. So we do love Vista. But I'm not going to talk EIR. It's more common sense. When you look at this little red thorn there that's really sticking into San Marcos, it's the furthest point away from Vista. So maybe you should cede it to San Marcos. We'll take it over. But my question is, I travel a lot, and I wouldn't want to live next to a hotel. I do stay at nice hotels, but this is not a Ritz-Carlton or La Costa Resort, and I wouldn't want to buy a house next to a hotel. The other one is the closest fire station from Vista is 3.5 miles away. Your trucks are going to have to drive through Carlsbad to get there, which is not exactly the most efficient way. So therefore, are we going to send San Marcos trucks because they're only 2 miles away when there's an emergency? When you have such a high density, you may want more emergency needs. Schools in San Marcos are already quite crowded, and sending those kids to Alvin Dunn, it's unfortunately not one of the best schools we have, but again, it will create traffic. The traffic risk is very important. That little intersection there is home to more or less 1 or 2 sheriff deputies every morning. This is a huge cash-generating intersection where they're trying to catch everyone going down the hill at over 55, and adding a second light downhill is going to generate more noise and more. You can imagine semis going down an incline. It's going to create quite a lot of risk. There's no sidewalk on the south side of San Marcos, so the kids can't even walk to San Marcos High School. And there's no buses. Yes, there's a bus sign that says bus 445. It comes 3 times a day. So it's not exactly transit system. And finally, there's 3 hotels that have been built, including one in Vista, in the past 2 years within 3 miles of this location. So how many more hotels do we need? So with that, as you can tell, I'm not exactly in favor of the plan, so please reconsider it so that we get rid of that construction trailer that's been there for 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other people in the audience who wish to speak? I'm out of speaker slips, so this would be your last chance. Come on up and then follow it up with filling out a speaker slip, please. No, sorry. Sorry.
I didn't fill out a form. But
when you're finished, fill it out and bring it.
Thank you.
So just state your name and give your address, please.
My name is Jim Murphy. I live with my lovely wife at 2013 Sequoia Street. I'm a neighbor. My wife begged me not to come up here to speak. I want to say that I appreciate all the other very nice neighbors who came up and spoke today. It's nice to know that you live in a community with so many nice people. Unfortunately, at times, I'm not that nice. I'm not very happy about what's happening here. My father was always a very nice man. He always told me, don't speak about somebody behind their back. The developer, I believe, is sitting right here. So I want to say this to you directly. I rebuke you for the way that this project's been handled. There are good developers and there are other developers. A good developer would reach out to the community that they're looking at coming into. I found out about this project a week ago. I understand from others that they found out at the same time. Yet this developer has spoken to each of you individually. The only person who spoke out on behalf of the developer here today was from the Vista Chamber of Commerce. He spoke first. He sat next to the developer. He got up and he left. I think what I'm hearing universally here tonight is there's a lot of concerns about this project. I'm not going to repeat what's been said. I do want to say that I understand I'm in the hospitality business. I understand the concept of one space per one room in a hotel. I have friends who are general managers. They run a 1,000-room hotel. If you have 1,000 parking spaces, there's room there for employees to park. When you have 100 spaces to run a hotel, that's not enough. And Ms. Kramer, I challenge you about the idea that people, when they go to a hotel, that they go in cars of 3 people per car for 3 rooms. That's not the standard that I'm familiar with. But in summation, I just want to say, please, don't vote on this for this project tonight. Give it more time. Let the neighborhood speak to you and give us time to get together to make a formidable proposal to you. I love where we live, and I'd like to continue to think of that place as a place that I love. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Phil. Mr. Connolly? Mr. Connolly? John? No. I'm sorry.
My apologies. What?
I would like to be able to, is there someone here that can sign off for the students so that
Sure,
we
the staff can.
we can keep going? And
Yes, I can take care of that. Thank you.
Okay, great. Do we need to? Because I would prefer not to take a break so that, okay, 5 minutes, that's it. And avoid your conversations, please. Students, you can come up here. We can sign for you. Thank you very much. Ninia, did you and your team wish to address any of these comments before the commissioners start making comments? Thank you.
We'll just take a brief pass at some of the overarching things that we heard. I think we just want to say we hear you, and in response, we have met with Las Brisas Pacificas on a number of occasions, their board, and so we did attempt to make some modifications to the plan in response to their concerns, and that's reflected in the plan that you see today. We think that it's important to note what's currently approved on the site under the light industrial zoning. It is approved for 283,000 square feet of light industrial. What you see in the existing industrial park is manufacturing. Those are truck trips. They operate long hours. They do have a lot of noise and light. I think some of you saw the picture that was sent by the resident of the Laurels yesterday of the building with the glass. The trip allocation for our project is significantly less overall, as well as in the AM and PM peak, and we can speak specifically to that. But the difference is also it's residential traffic. It's not truck traffic. And that project is approved with no signal. So that would be U-turns at the light at Acacia and the Las Brisas Pacificas and Laurels entrance. So overarching as it relates to noise, greenhouse gas, traffic, in a comparison of the approved industrial project versus what we're proposing, the impacts are less in all the categories. As it relates to the density, I think it's important, from a standard planning principle, what you do is typically try to radiate density from uses. And you can see, actually, Las Brisas Pacificas has a similar density to the project that we're proposing. They neighbor industrial on this side, and then the density radiates out to single family from there. So in a similar attempt to do that, that's what we've planned for the project. We're happy to answer more specific concerns, but that's kind of a high-line attempt to answer the questions.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from your team wish, or you're speaking for everybody?
Hi, my name is John Borman. I'm with Lynn Scott Long, Greenspan. We're a local traffic engineering firm, 4542 Ruffner Street. I'll talk a little bit about traffic on things I heard. Happy to answer your questions. First of all, the amount of traffic this project would generate compared to the approved industrial during the peak periods is about 25% less than with the industrial. That's straight out of Sandag. That's not our company's calculations, straight out of Sandag. Not to mention the truck show, so about 25% less. The capacity of San Marcos Boulevard, Palomar Airport Road along here is about 54,000 according to city standards. The current traffic's in the low 30s, so everybody has a different opinion on what's bad traffic. In my world, in the 30s compared to the 50s is acceptable. The signal will be safer than not having a signal there. The two signals will be coordinated, hardwire coordinated together. It'll rest on green on San Marcos Boulevard. It'll be 85% of the time it'll be green for those folks. And just to maybe answer one more time about the parking for the hotel, the one space room is a very standard rate for all over San Diego. They've done lots of parking counts at similar hotels. That's how they come up with that. So it's based on actual empirical data that came up with that. And it does account for all patrons and the employees. Happy to answer any questions now or later.
You'll probably have some. Let's see. At this point, I will, since I have no more speaker slips and the applicant has rebut, so I'll close the public hearing, and this is the time for the commissioners to ask questions of both the applicant and of staff, and then we'll go into commissioner and student commissioner discussions as well. So starting us off, Commissioner Roessler.
John, could you join us back up here for just a second? I was curious to find in the MND traffic study that you used the level of significance, the thresholds for significance for San Marcos, Carlsbad, and Vista. So you used each city's thresholds to determine the impacts that are happening on Palomar Airport Road in their city. Did I understand that correctly?
That's true. The standard of practice is to use the what jurisdiction the subject intersection or segment is located, use their criteria. So this is an unusual project that you have 3 different jurisdictions, but that is what you do. As opposed to just using the lead agency's thresholds, you depend on what jurisdiction the intersection is located in.
Okay, super. Okay, thank you. I found that interesting.
Commissioner Bell?
Question for the city and maybe the city attorney. Can you address what the procedure was for notification, both from the city and from the developer's perspective, as far as the neighbors distance-wise, how long they were supposed to be notified? And then the second part of that is, if at some point the Planning Commission decides to look at opening that period again, is that a possibility that we're allowed to make a choice on the review period for comment? Does that make sense?
State law has a notification of 300 feet. Our ordinance goes beyond state law and provides notice for 500 feet. I think that the planning staff perhaps could address the method that was used for providing the actual notice.
Thank you.
The notices are provided by the applicant for all of the properties within 500 feet. It's sent to the property owner on the latest county assessor's records. A paper notice is mailed out for the project site and all property owners within 500 feet to the latest assessment or registered owner on the assessment rolls. That notice was provided before the early design review that we had with the Planning Commission. Was also provided prior to the City Council discussion on the general plan change for this item earlier this year. Public notice to that same radius was sent out for the mitigated negative declaration for the public review period, as well as the public hearing tonight and the future public hearing for the City Council that will be required.
So these residents that are within the 500 feet should have gotten at least 5 different notifications in the last year or so?
Any property that's located within 500 feet, the owner of that property, as registered with the County of San Diego, was sent notice for the project.
And it sounds like, I don't want to interrupt you, but it sounds like some of the residents are saying they didn't get notice, and I assume they're further than 500 feet.
Well, that's my assumption as well. There could be a situation where someone within the 500 feet did not get notice, but our records indicate that some of the folks that in the Laurels that filed complaints in their letters were outside the 500-foot boundary.
And so from the city's perspective, what is our ability to choose to extend that comment period or to not do so? What flexibility do we have to do that?
With respect to the comment period, the mitigated negative declaration is before you tonight for your consideration. If you believe that the comment period should be extended, that's within your discretion as a decision-making body.
Thank you.
Going back to the notification, John, does that come from the City of Vista? So is it an envelope that says City of Vista, or is it a folded piece of paper?
It's an envelope that says City of Vista, and it's stamped with a red notice that says important public notice enclosed.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Garrettson, please.
Yes, 2 quick questions now. One relates to the motel parking requirements. The 2 motels that are on Melrose, are they the same density of parking requirements on those 2? Are they mixed use?
Both of those projects were parked at the same standard of 1 space per room.
Okay. Second question relates to that emergency exit. I'm not sure where that ends up on Linda Vista. I don't know if you have an overhead or something that would provide that information.
Can you put your mic on?
My voice is pretty loud, but so the emergency secondary access would exit the site here, go along the industrial property here, and end up at Linda Vista, right at this location right here.
Would that be a road?
No, that would be private. That would be private and strictly for emergency purposes only. There would be a
But
gate
it would
there.
be as wide as a road where a fire
24
truck
foot wide.
could get down that or up that.
That's correct.
And would it be open to pedestrians walking up that way?
Right now, the gate doesn't show a pedestrian gate. If that's something that the Planning Commission wanted to consider, I mean, that's something that could be brought up. But as of right now, the plans indicate just a emergency gate at the end of that drive.
Because the closest parks and so forth are up Linda Vista. And otherwise, they would have to go all the way around through Poinsettia or all the way down San Marcos Boulevard in Santa Fe.
Santa Fe.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Jackal, please.
But to follow up on that, earlier we had discussed having that exit become an actual working everyday exit. Is that not possible? I mean, trying to get everybody out of one entrance and exit is not going to work.
Yeah, you might want to call the developer up to discuss the agreement they have with the adjacent property owner. That would probably be my suggestion at this point.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll wait and ask that later then. Thank you.
Let's bring him up now.
All right.
Nania, can you address that?
The agreement for that area contemplates emergency access only. In discussions with Las Brisas Pacificas, and I think, in fact, you heard it tonight talking about parking along that area, they've really asked us to try to not have a lot of active uses along that area. And as such, we've planned for a gate at the top as well as a gate at the bottom that will be have strobe lighting so that they can be accessed for emergency access only. It is important to note that the entrance with the signal has been reconfigured, so there's 2 egress lanes, a right turn lane as well as a left turn lane to help move the traffic out of the project.
Going back to that service road, make sure I understand. So at Linda Vista gate.
Yes.
At the bottom of the project site, same thing. So nobody could
No parking, correct.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Rossler, please.
Don't go away. You've heard a lot of concerns about parking tonight, and we addressed that when you were here for the early design review, and you provided more. I have to tell you that in reviewing the floor plans for the project, I don't remember this, seeing these plans, but it's been a while and I'm old. But anyway, I have to tell you that I am concerned about your Plan 3 and your Plan 1. And my concern is the dual master, especially in the Plan 3 on the 3-story. And it has a ground floor bedroom with a bathroom in it. In my mind, there's potential for 5 adults to live there with 5 cars, and the 3.25 parking spaces that we've required isn't going to be enough. So I'm concerned about it. I see one of two things. Either you redesign and get rid of the dual master, and I don't know who your market is when you're going to sell these, or you add more parking. So that's my concern.
I can speak to 2 things. We do have a parking consultant here, and I'll let her respond to parking and what we've done, as well as what you see in the adjacent neighborhoods, adjacent cities. But I will say that as it relates to the demographic that we plan for the project, we specifically are targeting entry-level and first move-up buyers, comprised largely of young couples, head of household between 30 and 45 years of age. They're expected to originate from San Diego. So we're not expecting a large amount of teenage activity or multiple heads of household within the one unit. There is a bedroom count allocation, but we do find that a lot of this demographic has either 1 or 2 home offices, a nursery potentially for a young family, things like that. So that helps with the bedroom count.
Okay.
Dawn, speak to the parking.
Good evening. My name is Dawn Wilson. I'm a registered traffic engineer here in California. I have an office in Carlsbad, 5865 Avenida Encinas. We have taken a look at similar types of product in North County, in San Marcos, in Carlsbad, to assess whether the proposed parking rate is a good parking rate, an applicable parking rate for this type of product. And what we've looked at in looking at similar parking codes is for sale type uses, we see 2 to 2.5 parking spaces per unit being pretty average. And we looked at properties about the same size with a similar unit mix. We found that the majority of the guest parking, and we surveyed at 10 and 11 o'clock at night, was vacant. So there is adequate parking on those different properties. We feel that this will have a very similar type behavior. Again, for sale units here in North County. There is not really an opportunity to park elsewhere. Looking at the topography in the area, it's not real easy to walk along here. This property is above the grade on Palomar Airport Road. So to park outside this area would be quite a hike for most people. So as we look at it as a for sale unit, people will have to make the decision on whether this is the right place for them for the types of vehicles and the type of lifestyle that they have, because there is a limited number of parking spaces that will be enforced through a homeowners association, similar to the properties that are in this area who also have homeowners associations. The garages will have windows so that inspections can be done to make sure that the garages are being used for parking and not for storage. And when that type of a situation is being enforced, we typically don't see parking issues in these types of properties. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Garrettson, please.
I don't know if I got an answer to the question about whether this emergency exit would be accessible by pedestrians from this property, bicyclists that want to ride or walk over to the school up Linda Vista.
A pedestrian gate is not currently shown on the plans. It's something we could incorporate, and we could also take a look at the access around the emergency access gate so that it's accessible to pedestrians as well as bicyclists.
Okay. I would also like to follow up about amenities. If you look at pure numbers, the numbers add up, but the amount of people those amenities are going to service, I don't think adds up at all. I think you got a small swimming pool. If you added all of those together and say how many people are going to be using that, I think it's totally inadequate. Even though it complies with the city ordinance, it doesn't talk about size of amenity or how many people that amenity serves. There's no, for instance, basketball. Could be something that could be added there that could make a huge difference. But with as many apartments, you're going to have teenagers. And where are those teenagers going to play basketball or throw the ball around or throw the frisbee? There is no place to do that, and that is a major concern of mine.
Thank you. Commissioner Jackal?
I echo that. As we said in the early design review, this is an island. There's no getting to and from. You're there and you're there. You have one little teeny tiny tot lot up at the far upper corner. There need to be at least two more spread out. You've got to have some place for the teenagers to be. Otherwise, what are they going to be doing? That's your amenities may be nice, but they're not enough, and you can't just forget the children. Can I talk about something else? Okay. I personally found the comments in the MND and the comments in response and the responses to the comment letters kind of lacking. They seem to elide the point of the comment or the question being asked in the comment. And instead, we just got, I don't know how to explain it, but for example, several questions about the views of the project. Now, when at the early design review, I asked for specifically a perspective view from San Marcos Boulevard and from Las Brisas Pacificus. And the comment from that several people asked about it in the comment letters, and the response to that was the comment speculates, not on the basis of personal observation or other reasoned basis, except you stand there and you can see it, that the project will interrupt the scenic vista of Las Brisas Pacificus residents as they look to the west. And the MND says that this is not a recognized scenic vista. Well, maybe it's not listed on the National Register of Historic Places, but it is something that the people in Las Brisas are going to get up every morning and look at. Therefore, it is a significant view. And I would still really like to have a perspective view of what they will get up in the morning and see. And just saying that, it's not, this comment response is, even if this were true, obstruction of a few private views in a project's immediate vicinity is not generally regarded as a significant environmental impact. This is not one or two people. This is a whole community that's going to be looking at this. And I don't think that's fair to that community. And I personally would like to see what this is going to look like. Okay, I'll stop there.
Commissioner Looney, please.
Yeah, just a couple points, a couple concerns that I have. One is the parking. I really don't feel comfortable having the parking ratios based upon the mixed use. There's definitely a line because there's been designated areas for the hotel or for the commercial or retail area and the residential. I think there needs to be a distinct separation between those in the parking. The second point is the compatibility of the land use. We're surrounded by, on three sides, basically homes, and then we got the industrial park on that northwest area. Homes I don't really have a problem with. The hotel, I'm not sure that's compatible with the existing land use. And then one of the other points that was brought up regarding landscaping, those bioretention basins can become somewhat unsightly, and I'm not sure having those in the very central part of the green belt or the green open space area is really the best solution for that. So I think that could be worked out to be something better.
Thank you. Mr. Ressler, we've tried so hard in this project to say, this is the hotel. We put in a gate on the entrance for the residents so that people from the hotel can't get in and park with the residents. So we've separated it so well. Why did we make the condo portion not just a residential designation? Why mixed use when we're trying so hard to keep them separated?
I think, as Mr. Conley indicated, this project was brought before the City Council in a discussion item regarding the change of use, and the change of the general plan and so forth. And at that time, the City Council supported the change of use as well as utilizing the mixed-use standards at this location.
Okay. Mr. Looney, I can see, I have no problem with the hotel end of it as much as I have the problem with the condo entity. Someone made a point, and maybe Ms. LaRessler, you can tell me if this is true or not, that San Marcos School District said we don't have any room for your kids?
That wasn't indicated to the city staff. Actually, the developer will be required to pay school fees in order to mitigate the impacts associated with the new students to that school district.
Okay. So that, okay. You want to put that in your microphone?
The letter from the San Marcos School District commenting on the project indicates that there will be some 89, if I remember correctly, students that will be generated, 46 to Alvin Dunn Elementary, 20 to San Marcos Middle School, and 23 to San Marcos High School, and they will pay $4,351,000 in school fees to mitigate their impact.
The city attorney might be able to speak to the school fee issue with regard to state law.
Mr. Stone?
I'd be much better able to speak to the fees that we collect than the school fees, so I really wouldn't be able to speak to the fees that are being collected by the San Marcos.
Okay.
I can say that there is state law that requires a developer that is paying school fees to the school at the rate that the district requires is compensatory mitigation for any development impact. So the Planning Commission can deny this project on a lot of grounds, but as long as they're paying their school fees, impacts to schools is not one of them.
Okay, got it. Mr. Ressler, one more question right now that I have is, so if it were light industrial, does that mean it has high probability of being a concrete tilt-up like most everything is in the business park?
Yeah, that could be the case. Sorry about that.
Okay.
As indicated before, I think the previous entitlement included 283,000 square feet of industrial space. Typically, that would be quite a few tilt-up buildings. In terms of the standards in the Vista Business Park specific plan, the height limitations, again, are 45 feet. There are some areas identified in the specific plan that are buffer areas that require substantial separation from the residential zone. This, in fact, isn't an area within the buffer area. So, in fact, those large-scale buildings could actually be sufficiently close to the perimeter of the property.
Correct, and no signal.
And no signal, and that would be U-turns at Business Park Drive and Acacia.
Yep, got it. Sounds delightful. Commissioner Looney, please.
Rick, you had mentioned that this property went before City Council. How is that reviewed?
So
was it just a zone change, or just so I understand kind of the perimeters that we have to make decisions in?
Anytime that we have a proposed general plan or zone change, we bring the item on discussion to the City Council. We notify the surrounding property owners and give the council an opportunity to provide an opinion on whether or not they would consider the general plan amendment. If their answer right out of the gate is no way, then we don't accept the application and we save everybody a lot of time and energy. In this case, they went before the council. We had a discussion about the potential change, and they indicated support for allowing the application to proceed. That's essentially the extent of review that they go through. The application then goes through the full planning process, comes to you for a recommendation, and then for a final decision.
Okay, thank you.
I'm a student commissioner. Love to hear from you. Come on up.
Thank you. I believe the issues regarding traffic congestion and limited amount of parking within this project are keeping me from supporting its development. Now, San Marcos Boulevard is already filled with heavy traffic. Moreover, the project would only increase traffic congestion further and result in a greater volume of noise that will disturb local residents and increase air pollution. And I think the issue regarding the parking needs to be revised. And I believe that many residents would resort to using other neighborhoods within the area and possibly creating even more congestion in those areas as well. And so it's these issues that are that I believe will create a negative effect on multiple communities within the area. And so I believe that this project should not be permitted for development until they are all revised. That's all.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your opinions. Okay. Commissioner Rossler.
No, it's my turn. The thing that I'm struggling with, and I think Commissioner Looney is too, is the parking requirement for the mixed use. If we wanted to change that requirement, would we not support the mixed use overlay and recommend to the council that they do high density on the condo part? Or can we go in and specifically say for this project, the parking ratio is going to be X? How do we do that? That's what I'm struggling with.
The project before you tonight is what you're deciding on. So if you don't agree with the parking standards that are proposed, you should not vote in favor of the project.
Okay.
Mr. Conley, I do think that you would be able to recommend an alternative, I think, because obviously it's not simply guided by a zone change. There's the site, the various development approvals. There's a development agreement, and so it's not like a cookie cutter type of parking requirement.
I should clarify. The recommendation you make tonight goes to the council.
Right.
If you recommend that they have a higher parking standard, you can recommend that they don't approve this project and they require them to go back and adopt a higher parking standard.
There we go.
But
all right, it is a legislative action, so our role here tonight is to recommend make recommendations to the council on the general plan and the zoning. And
exactly.
Does that include the tentative map and the site development plan as well? Okay. All right.
Commissioner Bell.
Since we're on the subject, just a clarification. There's 5 recommendations that we're being asked to recommend or disapprove of tonight, and it looks like they're in 2 categories. One category involves the actual rezoning of this plot, and the second category involves approval of the actual, or recommendation of the actual project. Am I right? Okay, so with regards to the zoning, we have the ability to choose one way or the other, but with regards to approval of the actual project, this falls under the same government code we've dealt with several times, no? Clarify for me, help me.
No, there's considerable discretion here,
okay.
And there is no zoning entitlement, and also the way this is structured in terms of the approvals, they operate as a unit. So the zone change is essentially ineffective to produce any effective change in the allowable uses without the development agreement being approved also.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Which allows for the specific development called for in this instance, and not anything else.
That's really helpful. Thank you.
Commissioner Rossler.
Okay. I think I have an idea of how we should proceed. I think the change from industrial to the residential and the motel will be less impactful than an industrial project on the property. Planning school taught us that we step things down and vary densities as you move away from the city center, and so I think going from our industrial project to the single-family residential and the attached units, that this is an appropriate land use. Okay, So I'm okay with that. I think it's with what we allow in our industrial park. Industrial buildings on that property would be much more impactful to the neighborhood, although they did support light industrial, and I don't agree with that. However, I have a problem with the design of the project and the parking and the amenities and the view. So what I think we should do is I think the mitigated neg deck was solid. I read through the entire thing and thought the analysis was good. There are technical studies that support the conclusions. So I think it's a solid document. So I would recommend that the council adopt the mitigated neg deck. I'd recommend that they approve the general plan amendment to mixed use. I would recommend that they approve the specific plan amendment to the business park to allow the mixed use overlay. But then after that, I would recommend that they not approve the development agreement and that we require more parking, more recreational amenities, better view analysis, and the other things that we've mentioned here. So I could see recommending or adopting the first 3 resolutions on the plan and then recommending a change to the last 2. That's where I'm at.
Commissioner Jackal.
I'm with you. Thank you. I'm with you all the way, except down to the last one. Can we recommend that the residential part be under the standard residential parking things?
Yes. Yes.
I just wanted to nail that down.
Yeah.
I think before we, I want to give an opinion, make sure that I'm on board. I think I'm on board with what you're proposing. If I lived at Las Brisas or the Laurels, I really would not like to look at a 45-foot concrete building and hear the roar of the trucks and the screeching of the tires, because there will be no signal when they're making those U-turns. Pardon me?
Jake Briggs?
Yeah. So, and I think what the applicant is proposing, the style of the buildings, the color scheme, the landscaping, there's so many positives that I think it would be, and much lower, I think would be much better. So is my thinking in line with the things that you are suggesting we consider?
The architecture and the landscaping, all of that's fine. That's great. I think we're concerned about parking, amenities,
okay.
And the view analysis. Have I got that right?
I think so.
For the rest of the commissioners?
Yeah. I'm not sure.
This project does go on to the city council. So they're going to go through it. They've got until that's scheduled. John, do we know any guess of when that might be going to council, when it might go to council?
I don't know if we have, Mr. Ressler, do we have a scheduled hearing date yet?
It's not scheduled, but tentatively we're looking at December 13th.
Oh, that's soon. Okay, well, they'd have another month. They'd have their 30 days to
30 days.
To do their additional analysis and make their presentation to the city council. Okay?
Go for. Oh, Commissioner Looney.
Does that come back to us before it goes to city council? So the recommendation that we would be considering is as proposed, however, making modifications to the amenities, landscaping, and parking.
Commissioner Garrettson, please.
I'd also like to consider making an amendment relative to construction times. 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, I think, was something that we should consider restricting that to Monday through Friday.
You going to take it? Yeah, please. Commissioner Rossler.
All right. I'm forgetting something. We talked about parking standards. We talked about amenities. Commissioner Garrison, was the gate at the top and the bottom on the emergency access, was that satisfactory to you?
Yeah, as long as there's access,
For
with
pedestrians?
a bicycle or somebody that
Okay.
wants to walk up, because that gives them access to certain amenities at the local park. But still, there's issues with the amenities on the site
Yes.
itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And the view analysis. All right.
That view analysis would be from the east looking west to see what.
Las Brisas? From,
Well, I think, I didn't even know about the Laurels, so, I'd be the Laurels and
Las Brisas.
looking at the project.
Because there are several streets over there that some are below and some are way above. So it would be good to get a view from all of those perspectives.
Commissioner Looney.
If we look at view corridors, that may affect building heights.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we need to provide just kind of an allowance in there that the building heights may be modified depending upon your the view rights that are discovered.
There was something else besides parking, amenities, and the view analysis, wasn't there?
Parking amenities. Landscape issues? I don't.
Well, on the landscaping issues, the retention basins inside the project, we weren't supporting those, were we? Yeah. Okay.
Commissioner Garrettson.
Can we also require that the parking light or the stoplight be installed before they start construction? Because the problem with these big trucks and stuff coming in and out of there is going to be an incredibly difficult traffic situation.
Is the signal on Vista's end or San Marcos's end?
City of San Marcos.
That's in the city of San Marcos.
Okay, so we can't control that.
We have a condition in the record that the applicant obtain a maintenance agreement and a construction agreement with San Marcos to put up the signal, so they have to go through that process with them separately.
Okay.
Because I just can't imagine all these big trucks going up and down there without that light.
If the commission wants to include that in their recommendation,
Yeah.
that's fine.
It's a Christmas list.
All right. You want me to give it a try?
Please.
Okay. I move that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution recommending the City Council approve the mitigated neg deck and the mitigation monitoring and reporting program. Further, I adopt the resolution recommending the City Council approve the general plan amendment to change the land use from the subject property from research light industrial to mixed use. Further, adopt the resolution recommending the City Council approval of the specific plan amendment to amend the Vista Business Park specific plan to create a mixed-use overlay on the property. And then adopt the resolution recommending the City Council approval of the development agreement for the hotel and condominiums, open space amenities, landscaping, and associated improvements to include parking standards for the high-density residential designation?
It would be the RM zone.
RM, that's residential medium, right, medium residential, RM, that the amenities be increased to have, did we say 3 major recreation facilities?
Well, it's not so much the number, but the number of people that they're going to service and who they're going to service. There's nothing here to address servicing teenagers.
Right.
You know, pardon? Well, no, it has. We're not talking about numbers of amenities. We're talking about the size of the amenities and who they accommodate.
Yeah, 12-foot pool's not going to service 400 people.
So let's name a specific number then on the pool. Like, instead of saying broadly, let's improve it, let's actually put specific requirements in.
I don't know that I have a handle on that, about how big their pool should be. But there are recreation experts out there that can tell them how big the pool should be for the number of residents that they have.
I would just offer, let's give some guidance beyond bigger and more. Let's
Right.
give some bar or measure for them to actually shoot for,
Okay.
because otherwise-
Then I would say double the size of the pool, add some sort of a basketball or tennis
Active sports
area,
court.
and something that's going to allow open space recreation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one more tot lot.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Resler, you got this? All right. Then we recommend to the council that that approval include a view analysis from the Laurels and Las Brisas. So when this all gets to them, they understand what they and the adjacent neighbors understand what this is going to look like. That the retention basins be reworked so that there's maybe one large facility and all of those individual facilities become usable open space. Okay.
If I could comment on that.
All right.
The stormwater requirements are probably not going to permit that.
Okay.
You have to separate your drainage areas and treat them
separately
and then bring them together as they pull off site. So part of the treatment is separating your areas so that you can treat them individually.
Federal laws making a lot of changes in those, and I appreciate what the applicant made as far as the smaller retention basins, but I'm not sure the locations are going to be, as proposed, the best. But when you get one big one, I mean, look what we did on last hearing.
Yeah.
We've got 2 acres of that stuff.
Right.
I don't think that would be best suited for the site.
No, I agree.
So if we can break them down to smaller areas as they have, that's a stronger design from my perspective.
Okay. So should we leave the small detention basins throughout the project?
I think they need to be small retention basins, but I'm not sure they need to be in the very middle of the green space.
Okay.
Because right now they're proposed
Green space
in
should
that
be
beltway.
right. The green space should be usable.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And did we come to a conclusion on the stoplight? That we're covered with our proposed conditions?
You want the construction of the project to follow the construction of the signal. You can include that in your...
Okay.
Excuse me, I would, maybe we could coordinate with San Marcos, and I hate to impose a condition
that's dependent on somebody
that
else.
actually might not be capable of being accomplished,
right,
and would result in stagnation.
Yes.
So maybe
or it goes away,
could
doesn't
be,
it?
we would coordinate with San Marcos to create the best possible result.
Okay, so, but Commissioner Looney had a point about the heights of the buildings.
I'm sorry,
The heights of the buildings may be needing to be changed as a result of the view analysis.
Correct. Coming back to what you had mentioned, what happens if the city of San Marcos doesn't find the funds to do the street improvements for 5 years?
They're responsible.
I'm not following. You mean the signal installation?
Correct.
The signal installation is going to be the developer's responsibility.
Okay. Okay.
All the costs associated with it, as well as all the improvements on the public street frontage tied to the project, will all be at the developer's discretion. The city of San Marcos has to approve an agreement to allow it to move forward, but they pay for all of it.
Okay. Then I misunderstood what was
San
said.
Marcos has given us tentative agreement that they would allow for the signal there.
Okay.
And so the last recommendation to the city council is that the stoplight be installed prior to construction of the project.
I think there was one other thing that was mentioned, and that was construction times Monday through Friday, 7 to 5, or 7 to 7, excuse me, and no Saturday work.
You feel strongly about that, Commissioner Garrison?
Well, at first I did, but let's talk about that. That could delay the project and completion.
Right.
So I don't know. Somehow I'm uncomfortable if I lived in a neighborhood of seeing all that construction all day Saturday, 7 to 7. But yet, on the other hand, I'd like to see the project completed.
It gets it done faster. They have a shorter period of impact.
They also aren't home typically Monday through Friday
That's
between
true.
7 and
Well,
6.
it's a retirement community, so
Yeah.
maybe they are.
When there's work going on a Saturday, I mean, that's the time I don't want to hear it.
No.
All right, I would suggest we keep that in
Okay.
there, that it's Monday through Friday, 7 to 7.
And again, it's a recommendation to the council. Okay. And then those recommendations all apply to the last resolution 5, the city council approval of the special use permit inclusive of the site development plan, condominium housing permit, and tentative map. Okay?
I'm sorry, we've closed the.
That's my motion.
We've closed the public hearing, so. We are not amending the negative deck. We're accepting the negative deck as it is. They're not changes. They're recommendations to the city council.
And they're included in the development agreement, the special use permit, site development plan, condominium housing permit, and tentative map.
So let me explain something for the folks that are here tonight. The way this will work is the action that the Planning Commission takes tonight will include a recommendation that will go to the City Council. The City Council will make the final decision. We expect at this point that that'll happen on December 13th. Although that's not final, we will send notices out to all the speakers that spoke tonight. The Planning Commission's recommendation will include the conditions that were mentioned tonight in terms of the changes to the project that they would like to see when the item is presented to the City Council. The City Council can either accept those changes and force the applicant to go back and redesign the project, or reject those changes and approve the project as is, or deny the project. They could take a number of different actions, but it's up to them to make the final decision. The action that's being taken tonight is a recommendation to them. The City Council has to approve amendments to the general plan and the specific plan if they want to approve this project. That's part of their action.
Commissioner Garrettson.
I was just waiting for a motion. I assumed that was the motion. I'm just seconding the motion.
Thank you very much. Mr. Conley?
Sorry, I hit
Okay.
my speaker
Okay.
button on accident there.
All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. Are there any comments? Seeing none, let's vote. Let the record show that the recommendation, all 5 items with changes, the motion and the second were agreed upon with the exception of Commissioner Carroll, who's absent. Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right, next on our agenda is commission staff discussion and council actions.
We're still in meeting.
We're still in a meeting. Welcome.
Thank you. If we could take a moment for everybody to clear out, is that okay?
I don't think anybody's happy with that one. Oops.
All right. So first, I just want to say I have a tremendous amount of respect for all of you and what you do. It's not an easy job, and it's usually pretty thankless, so I appreciate it, and I thank you all for your work tonight. It's a difficult decision. First, I wanted to update you on the City Council action. Last night, as you heard, they approved both the Breeze Hill and the Creekside applications. All of the conditions that were imposed by the Planning Commission on the Creekside were part of the action for the council, so those were all maintained. There were no new conditions placed on Breeze Hill. Those projects are approved and final. There's a CEQA challenge period of 30 days if someone wants to file a legal challenge to the environmental approval, but as far as the city's action, we're done. The second item is December 6th will be our next Planning Commission meeting. I know we have at least one public hearing, possibly 2. But I don't think we're going to have the kind of crowds that we had tonight. We'll see. Third thing is just some news on the commercial front. We heard today that the Walgreens at the corner of Civic Center and South Santa Fe is going to close. Another sign of, I think, commercial distress hitting the market, which is right next to Union Bank there, next to the affordable housing, senior affordable project that's proposed. We do have some interest from Sprouts Market that they want to come back to Vista, so we're hoping that they might take the space, but we're still looking at it. I just wanted the commissioners to know that's the latest buzz in the community. Other than that, I don't have anything to report. Michael, did you have anything to add? No. Okay.
Have you heard anything about the Ralph's?
Ralph's. So Ralph's was closed. I did talk to Oceanside. Nothing's been submitted. A lot of people are concerned that a proposal for apartments is going to come there, although I don't think Oceanside zoning is quite set up the way ours is, where someone could just come in and propose apartments. They have to go through a zoning change of some kind to do that. But there's been no indication that anything's moving forward at the Ralph Center yet. Sorry, at Cannon and Melrose.
Actually, I called Carlsbad and talked to one of the city planners.
Can you use your mic? Thank you.
I called Carlsbad and talked to one of the city planners and asked the question about the apartments. And she went around and asked everybody in the planning department, and nobody had heard anything about apartments there. So, but that was maybe 2 months ago.
In the Ralph Center?
Yeah.
Isn't that Oceanside?
Yeah.
Oceanside Planning, yes.
Oh.
We posed the same question to their planning director. He said they haven't gotten anything.
What about the property across the street on Melrose that's just been sitting there for months?
So that construction was started. There were some delays. I got word back based on Commissioner Jackal's question. The developer had, stopped for whatever reason for some time. My understanding is they are going back to start construction again, but the city holds bonds in the event that they walk away to try to wrap the site up, but it could sit like that for a while if the developer just walks away mid-construction. We really have no authority in that regard because it's outside our city.
Is the developer for North County Square, are they going forward with their signage? Because when I was on 78 going west this afternoon, there was lots of trucks with putting big
So they are relocating their sign that's furthest west from the center. It's the Babies R Us area there, kind of up on the north part. They're moving their sign about, I think, 50 feet or so up the street. They lease some of the city's right-of-way to move the sign closer to the buildings, and that's what's going on right now.
I also saw that King and Queens and all of that's been leveled and getting all ready for the parking lot.
We are going to, I believe we awarded the contract for that, or it's going on in December. Anyway, the construction is supposed to start in January, and we expect it to be done by the end of April, early May.
Construction of the parking lot.
Yes.
Got it. Commissioner Garrettson. Okay. Mr. Stone. Nothing? Anything else? Anybody else? Nope. Seeing so, we're adjourned, 9:01. Happy Thanksgiving.